basically what it was is what are some essentials you could use for business casual, even business formal, and how would you use them, right? So what I'm going to talk about is basically shoes. So give me 1 second. Forgot to grab these. I have here cap-toe Oxfords from Carmina. These are pretty much the most formal shoe a man can have, with the exception of hole-cut Oxfords or opera pumps, but I'm saying as just a regular, normal person. And I think that those shoes will do well with any situation. And what I would say is if you will never wear a suit or you're not interested in wearing a suit, there are other alternatives for you. And one that I would strongly recommend would be tassel loafers like these. I have here. These are also from Carmina. I've had them for 5 years. I've resold them once, and they're extremely beautiful. I would strongly recommend that loafers are great. You can use them from, like I said, from business casual all the way to just casual wear, and you won't have any issue whatsoever, and you won't look out of place, if that makes sense to you. So there is that. And the next thing that I would say is Bass Legions. These have been around for an extremely long time in the United States as part of the Ivy style slash trad style, and they are of high quality in my opinion. You can style them in just about anything in the world. They make them in black and they make them in red. I chose red because a lot of times a black loafer is pretty common, penny loafer wise, and I don't know, it doesn't really do anything for me in my opinion. So I went with the red version, and I found out that it seems to go well with more things, in my opinion, than the black version. The black is usually more formal as well. So I really do like wearing the red, especially with navy blazers or any kind of red, a burgundy jacket, a green jacket. You can look on Instagram for a whole bunch of my pictures, and I will be wearing these shoes with a host of different jackets, blue, green, gray. They work with pretty much anything. And also, like I said, in addition, these tassel loafers will work as well, and they are a less formal option. And you can use them, like I said, within anything that you want to use, and it's extremely helpful. Another thing I'd recommend is, I've done a video on these guys, but basically Message Rouge, which is, I would say, a very helpful and extremely well thought out business when it comes to socks. They have every kind of sock you could ever want, and one thing that I would say to upgrade your style would be is to wear over the calf socks, because nobody likes to see hairy legs, in my opinion. That's my opinion. Maybe there are some folks out there that do. I don't happen to be one of them, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But what I will say is that they make some of the highest quality that I've ever had, and usually what happens is I've had them for several years, and I make a mistake, and I tear all of them, and I have to buy new ones, and that's usually from my fault, nothing to do with the quality of the sock itself. It's usually self-inflicted in my stupidity, which is common throughout a lot of things that happen, unfortunately. And I will say that the company has been more than gracious in giving, and they write handwritten letters to you when you buy, which I think is really cool. There's not many companies, in my opinion, do that anymore. So it's nice to actually get a handwritten letter from the folks, and I really do appreciate that level of service. But as I mentioned before, to go back to my previous point, over-the-calf socks will help you, especially with business casual or even casual, or even I would even say to the formal side. And I think it'll save you a lot of embarrassment as far as showing off the hairs on your legs, and it will cover them, so you'll be good to go. That's strictly my opinion, but I think it will elevate your style in a way in which you did not pay attention to before. The next thing I'd recommend is, I would say, a suit. So what I'm wearing right now is from Mexico. So my wife is from Merida, Mexico. So because of that, this is Alonso Trezo. This is a bespoke suit that I got from them, and you notice the lapels are huge. I asked for that just for fun. I wanted them to have fun with my jacket. I told them that do something that you have been wanting to do and play with it. And they made these lapels, and I love the lapels. They're pretty cool. They're really big, and they're peak lapels, so it looks like wow on your face, and that's what I wanted. I wanted a suit that was fun and different than the other ones that I had. addition to that, you can wear those two suits to anything, in my opinion. If you do not have, or you're not interested in wearing a suit, what I would say that could take the place of that would be a navy blazer with gold. Here you'll have gold buttons, and I would say that right there would be pretty much a good stand-in if you're not interested in ever owning a suit or having a suit. Some folks just don't want to, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I would say in its steadfast, a navy blazer would definitely step in and do the job. And I would say that you could actually use that on other occasions as well, because navy blazer is extremely easy and versatile to use. The next thing I would suggest is a shirt. So get the nicest shirts you can buy. And what I mean by that is, if your budget can allow for it, is buy the nicest ones. And I would say go and touch shirts that are higher, and then you can feel the difference in the shirt and the quality texture when you're wearing it. And it does make a difference, and it will make a huge savings for you. Another thing I would say that a lot of men that I find when they don't like to dress up or they don't like to wear more formal clothing is they complain about the neck collar, and they complain about the length of the length of the sleeves in the shirts. And what I have to say about that is just measure your neck. You can figure out, is it 17 and a half? Is it 18? And then your sleeve length, you can figure that out when you try the shirt on. It's either a 36, is it a 35, is it a 34, is it a 37? And go from there, and you actually get a well-rounded shirt that fits you and doesn't choke you. It should feel comfortable. It should feel like a suit of armor. It should not feel tight to you whatsoever. It should flow, if that makes sense. And another thing I would say is don't make sure there's like right now I don't have a gap, but some folks, they'll have a gap like this in their collar. Don't do that. Get a properly fitting collar as well. That's another thing that I've noticed over the years, and I just go, oh man, I just cringe every time I see that, because it's just, oh, you can do so much better and look so much better. Another thing that I would say is get a medium to spread collar shirt. If you get a close one, this right here basically displays your face. It's a portrait of your face. The way the collar shape is basically is displaying your face. And if you notice, I like this right here. I originally went with ones that were more like this, and I just didn't like the way my face looked in a lot of the pictures. So in order to contrast that, another thing when I had this jacket like button here, is this, it covers the edges of these, which I really do prefer that look. That is a personal preference. Doesn't necessarily mean that's what you want to do, but that's a personal preference that I have, and I think it works out just nice, and I think it looks great. And another thing that I would say, another reason why, is because when shirts start to fray, and later on in life, usually they start to fray in this area here. So if it covers that area when you have the jacket button, you may be able to get away with wearing the shirt collar a little longer than you should, as far as throwing it out, because that is not really a repairable thing, in my opinion, from my own experience. It's better just to buy a new one. So that basically covers shirts, with one exception. There are two types of shirts. I have one right now, which is a barrel cuff. As you can see here, it does not have cufflinks. There are some that fold back on themselves, and that in the American English we call them French cuffs. And I don't know what the British English they use, the term that they use. Maybe someone can correct me in the comments after I post this video. But pretty much you can choose between both. However, I will say this, and basically if you choose cufflinks, that is a more formal shirt, generally speaking. If you choose barrel cuffs, it's not as a formal of a shirt. And the reason why is because with cufflinks, you can basically get whatever cufflinks you want and show off your personality to the world. Men generally do not get a lot of jewelry items, basically, so it's nice to have a set of cufflinks that you can show the world, hey, this is my personality. And that leads me to think as well, is I mentioned this before about shirts, and I just talked about collars, so I would like to attack that again with a different idea about a collar. And the collar is a button-down collar here. So basically you'll have buttons here, and it will look like this, and it will pull the tie knot up. And that is not usually that is a less formal shirt. So if you wanted to do business casual, I would strongly recommend doing an Oxford button cloth, Oxford button cloth down shirt. So that basically OCBD, and that will help you quite a bit to complete the look. And basically, you can wear a knit tie, or you can wear a rep tie, and you'll be just fine. And like I said, especially with these vast regions right here, you'll be basically rocking and rolling, and you'll look extremely fantastic compared to other folks. Now, I did admit that part from the beginning. It just crossed my mind, so that's why I wanted to readdress it right now. And in addition to that, what I will say is even when you buy a shirt, a lot of times people have a tendency to not have it tailored in the sides. A lot of times when they're cut from the factory, if you buy them off the rack, they're kind of like a trash bag. They just fit over you. So I would strongly recommend going to an alterations or a tailor, and basically what I would do is spend the money to have them put form into the shirt, if that makes sense. So, and that also goes for suits as well. So if you were to buy one off the rack, or if you were to buy one second hand, make sure they cut it to where it gives your body form and shape. And if that's what you're so desired to do, in my opinion, that makes the fit look much better and look better on your body because it's giving it shape. It's not just one straight line, and that's something that's extremely important if that's what you're going for. Another way to do that is drape, but also drape will add a different kind of texture to what you're trying to do. But I will say that if I would strongly recommend going to an alterations or tailor to have it, to give it shape and form. If you buy things off the rack, it will fit you better, it will look better, and I think you'll be pleased with the item more. And generally speaking, when you look good and you feel good, you're more likely to wear the item again, so it will be worth your time. And I like to say buy the best that you can with the money that you have, and to think of it as price per use, right? If I buy something cheap and it just get destroyed and I have to buy it 3 or 4 times, that kind of ends up being more expensive than you buying the higher end model, but continually wear it and wear it and wear it. I believe these shoes were, I think, $300 when I bought them, and I've used them for 5 years, and you can look on my Instagram account. They're all over there, from all over, from, like I said, from 4 years ago when I created my Instagram account. These shoes have been on there. So that $300 has taken me quite a bit, and I mean, as far as in distance-wise of getting use out of an item. If I'd have bought a poorly fitting shoe, a cheaper shoe, may not be talking about the same shoe, but I'm literally talking about the same shoe that I purchased 5 years ago, which is awesome, in my opinion. So, next thing that I would recommend is ties. So, I have a tie here, and this is one that I had handmade from Pasario Cravata. And basically, I speak Spanish and English. I don't speak Italian, so if I butchered that, please make fun of me down in the comments. I look forward to the roasting. Just do that. I really appreciate it. Some of you guys are pretty funny in the comments. You leave me really nasty comments. And I do enjoy reading them sometimes because they are funny. And I do respond to them sometimes as well, depending on, sometimes a little sassy when I respond, but I do find the nasty comments sometimes really, really funny. So just so you guys are aware. Another thing I'd recommend, like I said, is ties. So what tie would you go for? There's knit ties, there's rep ties. Another thing I would say that I have here is, this is just a butterfly tie, a purple tie. I have just a paisley tie. These are nice. And basically what I would do, this is strictly my opinion, but you could go on eBay, and if you notice here, this is folded on itself, so it's not like it has a cheap lining inside, but no, this is a proper, beautiful tie by Serafina Silk. And basically what you can do when you go on eBay is, Daniel Cremo, if I pronounce that correctly, it's a French brand. They have it at Dillard's, and you can find 3-fold ties, 7-fold ties for $40 that are brand new pretty much. Some of them still have the tag on them on eBay. They're $30 to $40, and they're brand new, and they're absolutely beautiful, and a lot of them are limited editions. That tie, Daniel Cremo, brand new, is $150 from Dillard's. But like I said, you can go on eBay and get it for $30 to $50 for literally a handmade tie. That is a fantastic deal. And you're talking about an exponential level of savings. If you went into a department store and decided to buy a tie for $30, I guarantee you it would not even be remotely close to the quality you will be getting with that Daniel Cramoe tie. Being that it is handmade and it is made of silk. So that is really interesting, and I would strongly take a look, and that's a very underrated area to look at, because most folks are like, oh, I got to buy it brand new, and they see the price of the tie that's handmade, and they go, oh my goodness, that's so expensive. Why would you pay $150, $200 for a tie? That's crazy. Well, I can understand that sentiment, but if you're looking for something special or unique to yourself, or no one else is going to have it, that's when you start going into, okay, I think I would like to get a handmade tie, a bespoke tie. You start going into that realm where others don't have it or don't even know where to find it. That's when you start looking at that. But that's obviously in your personal preference, right? But like I said, the Daniel Cramoe, that is a fantastic, fantastic deal, and it's all over eBay. You can find them, and I would highly, highly recommend doing that. All right, so the next thing I'd recommend is, if you are living in a hot climate, what I would say is, you see this untipped tie? You see how it's, look, you can see right through it pretty much. You can see my hand right here through it. What that means is, if you live in a hot climate, if you wear an untipped tie, it doesn't have fabric, so it allows air to pass through it, and it makes it much more breathable, which is fantastic. Obviously, self-tip, there is no, you see, you can't see my hand behind this. So it is a thicker fabric, but also either one would work just fine. But I just mentioned that in the hotter climate, an untipped tie is much nicer, because if it's hot outside, the less fabric and the more air you can introduce to your body, the better off you'll be, so you don't sweat as much, if at all, which is great in my opinion. When it comes to dressing more formally, more elegantly, it's more comfortable. So that's why I would strongly recommend maybe an untipped tie. What you can do on this also, to circle back to eBay, is type in untipped ties, and then you could type in 3-fold, 5-fold, or 7-fold untipped ties in eBay, and it will return the search results for those, and you will be getting handmade ties that could be from $50 to $100 that are extreme high quality, and you're basically getting them a third or even a half off what they would originally cost. So there is that benefit as well, and I would strongly recommend that to anybody looking to get into ties. So there is that. The next thing I'd recommend for anybody would be to get a watch here. So, like, for example, this watch I have on, and I have a video about this. This is a Rolex Two-Tone Explorer. And you don't have to buy a Rolex. You don't have to buy a Patek Philippe. You don't have to buy any of those things. I just happen to like watches, which is a sickness, and I recommend anybody not get into that, because once it starts, it does not stop. There is nothing wrong, in my opinion, with just buying either. Most folks will wear an Apple Watch or electronic watch. If you want to stand out, buy like an old school Bolola Accutron. Those are really cool and really interesting, and it's a great conversation piece. Next thing I'd say, if you're not a watch person at all, you don't know nothing about them, buy the Seiko that you like the most and just wear it. Seikos are fantastic. They're a beautiful watch, and you can literally not go wrong with the Seiko. There are some that have been serviced for 15, 20 years, and they're still working. So I would strongly suggest that if you are looking at getting into a watch, or not into watches, I'm not so sure if I want to buy this one or that one, just buy a Seiko. You won't have any issue with it, and it'll be just fine. It'll work for years and years to come. And you could probably even give it to your children or grandchildren, because it will still be working, which is fantastic, in my opinion. So the next thing I recommend is if you have glasses. So like you can get basic glasses, but if you are a glasses wearer like myself, I can't see very far away without my glasses. It's not, it's definitely not a good thing if I don't have my glasses on. The chance of me seeing something happening is not going to be very high. But the thing is you can also use these for style, right? If you notice, mine have this Havana shape. These are Purcells. You don't have to buy Purcells, but I'm just saying as an example, if you want to make a style thing, and also it's something that you have to wear, like for example me, I don't have a choice, because I can say that you could also use your glasses as a style thing as well. You don't even have to buy. You can buy ones that fit your face, that stand out, that pop, and I think that would be very cool as well. And a lot of folks, I get lots of compliments on my glasses, but obviously I like these glasses. They're different models. These are the ones that I like, and obviously you can buy ones that you like and think, hey man, these are cool. I like these a lot, and I would strongly recommend that you do that, especially those that you're uncomfortable wearing glasses, you're not sure. If you get a pair of glasses that you're like, man, these are cool, and I really like wearing them, trust me, you're gonna feel a lot better wearing them than if it's, oh, I gotta wear glasses. Oh man, okay. So I'm just saying the attitude and the behavior difference is very different in my opinion. So I think that's fantastic, to be honest with you. But I have seen more Stranger Things, if so I would say. Let me get here. There's another thing I'd recommend here. I'm just going to pull it out. I do have. So I would say fine writing instruments, right? So I do have quite a bit on my list of items. So here's a Mont Blanc 149. I have done a video on this. This is one of my fine writing instruments. I think it's a beauty, and I would strongly recommend this. I also have several other writing instruments in here. This is the first one that got me into the sickness of fountain pens. This is the Visconti Opera Elements. As you can see, it's really well worn and tarnished on the bottom. I've used that since I was in college, so we're talking quite a few years ago at this point, like 10 or more. And I would strongly recommend. The other thing I would say, if you're going to get ink is fantastic. Is Iroshizuku Momichi. This one is a red ink. Works great. Another thing I'd recommend to improve your style would be a knife. A nice knife. And obviously you would pay attention to your local laws and not buy something that would get you in trouble, I would hope. And I would say that get one that you think is nice and one that you can use for practical purposes. I always carry a knife. This is the one that I carry. It's a Lagoulet, which is a French brand. This is a buffalo horn knife, and it just is simple out here, and then you just push down, and it goes back in, and that's it. And you could use an open mill, which is, I think is $10, $15, and those knives are beautiful. They work. They're functioning. They're not extremely expensive. And it will get the job done and keep it in your pocket. Like I said, please do keep in mind that your local laws, I think that would be without saying, but some folks, you never know. I will say that. Another thing to upgrade your style would be rings, right? I'm married, obviously. I've talked about my fraternity. I do have a video about that. That's a ring that I had, and bracelets here. So I do have a bracelet that was purchased by my wife to give to me, and obviously I use that quite a bit. So that's always within the running of that as well. I've gone on almost 25 minutes here on ways to improve your style from a question that I received, and I think that I've gone in depth than I may have should have, but I don't really care. I think that it's beneficial to everybody involved. I would say also to add on to this would be a cologne that you like. That would another be thing that I would add on to improve your style. Some folks, they're going to see you, but a lot of times if you smell nice, they can also change their opinion of you. Obviously, don't blast them. I think that goes without saying. But anyway, thank you guys very much. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you soon.